On FX, there's a new show. It is based off Octavia Butler's book, Kindred.
Just in case y'all didn't know, we spoiling the hell out the first 2 episodes. Sorry, but y'all know how we do here on the Black Futurist. Those of us who love sci-fi know huge time paradoxes have been opened up. She wasn't supposed to exist in that timeline at all. Now she's there. Something has to fundamentally change.
But her mother wasn't supposed to exist then either.
Absolutely.
So she may be undoing, she may be the corrective force of nature, correcting the footprint left by her mother.
I'm checking my signal too.
Bro.
You confused. You are confused.
The Black Futurist.
That's one small step for man.
Okay.
On FX, there's a new show. I think it all released in December 2022. It is based off Octavia Butler's book, Kindred. Octavia Butler is widely heralded as one of the queens and mothers of science fiction writing. And someone said, listen, I think that Kindred would make a great series to bring to television. So let's rewrite it. Let's get it out there. And honestly, I sat down and binge watched episodes 1 through 8. Which is not the entire story. I guess that's season 1. And I was really, really surprised. I really enjoyed it for a couple of reasons. And so I brought a few friends along. Next on the mic is my man, Mo. Come on, Mo, sing that song. Who are you, sir?
The ladies. What's up? Maurice Dolberry, you know me, a.k.a. Mo the Educator, consistent co-host on the Black Futures podcast, and somebody who loves talking about Black futures. And I found it fantastic as well. I just watched the first 2 episodes, and so that's going to be my perspective today.
Correct. I asked my friends to join me today for this conversation. I said, you know what? Watch the first 2 episodes, and let's talk about those. And as another great friend that I brought along, my man, Lavell Flamon. Welcome to the show, sir.
What up, y'all? Thank you very much. My name is Lavell Flamon here in Seattle, also known as the Incognito Negro. And I'm here to make it all free in 2023.
Yes. And because we had this previous series of episodes that we watched, Lovecraft Country, we really enjoyed it. We did the same format, 2 episodes of the show, 1 episode of the podcast, and we fell short because we never recorded the final 2 episodes. But there was a gentleman who was supposed to join us for the final 2 episodes of Lovecraft, and because we totally dropped the ball on that, I could not make the same mistake this time. So I brought along my man, Chef Brent Hughes.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Brent Hughes, living in D.C., born and raised Lynchburg, Virginia, currently engineer and a chef, and ready for this conversation.
So we have all watched Kindred, at least episodes 1 and 2. And I went back and rewatched it today and really drilled in. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Octavia Butler wrote this book in 1979. Let's take a step back for 1 second and say a thing that I think I'm probably safe in saying, and maybe we don't address that we all kind of say it. At the same time that this is out, Will Smith released Emancipation. I have yet to watch it. And probably left to my own devices, I probably would not have watched it. But the amount of people who came on and said, man, this thing is incredible, Oscar-worthy, da-da-da-da-da, you know, I may go ahead and check it out. It has nothing to do with the Will slap. It just has to do with another slave narrative, which is what I'm getting to. How many of us and how many times have you said, yeah, I'm not even trying to watch any more slave narratives? Have you all said that before?
Of course.
Never.
I felt that way about Emancipation, but then I watched the preview and I saw who it was about. I was like, oh, I got to watch this.
To Brent's point, I've taught grades 6 through 20. I've had students in my classrooms who were in their 60s and 70s. And the percentage of people who could accurately describe any aspect of slavery in the United States and its impact beyond it was bad is probably in the single digits. So while we may be pained by watching yet another movie about enslaved folks, we don't know anything about them personally. Even if you've seen a movie about Harriet Tubman, you don't know anything about her life. Maybe you've read something about her life, but there's so many other ones like this story that's about Peter, who's on the cover, I believe, of Bullwhip Days. He's the picture of the
We've all
first
seen that
person.
photo, yeah.
and his back is turned to the camera, right? So you actually learn who that dude is. So you see this black man with all these scars on his back, and something traumatic has happened to him, sure. But what was up with his life? What else happened to him? So my problem with the I don't want to see any more movies about slavery narrative is it means you shut yourself down from using that medium to learn anything about anyone who was enslaved. So do we completely and totally shut off learning about history about anyone black before 1865? And I don't want to straw man that argument and say, and this is what you're saying. It's not. Yes, we are tired of being in pain and seeing ourselves in pain, but that's my point.
I think the complexity is just the fact that there really doesn't seem to be other stories besides the free Negro in the North and the enslaved Negro in the South. And the world may not have been so dynamic to have the plethora of stories that we have today, where we can talk about various experiences. So we're kind of tethered to what we believe in our hearts is this trauma narrative that always centers Black folks as diminutive subjects of white supremacy.
Sure.
And then because there's so little information about Black people in those times, then we find ourselves being creative in describing their stories. And therefore we come into this fictionalization of people who were actually real. Just like with Nat Turner, that story was totally made up. And I didn't feel really drawn into the narrative as told, but definitely was always held by the story and the legend, the myth of Nat Turner. But I thought that the way that they portrayed him fictionally was not to my liking and left a lot left to be desired. And I think that's kind of where we went into the pitfall of oversimplifying or making heroes out of experiences where they were actually just people.
I'm assuming you're referring to the Nate Parker
Yes.
Birth of a Nation. Got it.
Yeah.
Despite your objection, Maurice, and I understand it, I'm not saying that's invalid, but I also don't want us to act like this is not a common refrain in our communities. There's many of us and a high percentage of us that feel that way and just be like, I'm just not trying to watch yet another slave narrative when there's so many other stories to be told. You've heard this before, correct?
Absolutely. And I understand it. I want to respect people's feelings, their reticence, their pain around it. Even when it's new information, it doesn't mean that, yes, I'm currently ready to learn about Peter and who he was because I still know about the pain of the context. It literally is not about him being a slave at all, just to give a miniature spoiler for the movie. But I know this time period. I know the challenge. And so my argument is to push us, but also to understand with empathy and with sympathy, everybody is not ready for it right now. All
I'm trying to get to by saying that was I saw Kindred coming. I was initially like, yes. And then second thought was like, nah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that again. It's a lot. I went back and forth about it. And then I went ahead and said, let me go and hit it. And I'm so glad I did, because what it offers is basically what if. It is science fiction. It involves that period of time, early 1800s. But in essence, what it has done is said, hey, if you send a man and a woman back in time, as a viewer, you can watch and say, they are representing my perspective. They're dealing with how to survive in this time, figuring out what the hell is going on. Like, do I believe in science fiction or the abnormal? And I've got to amine myself to the strange thing that's happening to me while also surviving this insanity. So let's get into the two episodes. The first episode is called Dana. Who is Dana? Brent.
So Dana is the main character, and she's yanked back from her current time. It's set in 2016, I believe. I think the first time she went back, it might have been like 1810 or so. We get to see this experience of a modern young Black woman going back in time and ending up on an antebellum plantation. So as we're talking about getting into those experiences of, you know, we always say, well, if I was back then, I would have XYZ. Like, you might have once.
Did you just say I wish I would?
Yeah. So she's the main character. That's who we're experiencing this through mostly.
You know what they didn't do? They didn't bury the lead. Let's start with that, because the headline was wonderful. The show opens up and the shit is in motion, right? The woman wakes up on the floor, bloodied. She's screaming for somebody. We have no idea who she's screaming for. Then she gets up and checks the cell phone. She opens the fridge. For some reason, there's a pistol in the fridge. Like, they did not bury the lead. They went like, we're going to hook you. You here. We got you here. We're going to keep you here. Why is there a pistol in the fridge? Why is she bloody? Who is she screaming for? Why is there no rugs in this place? It's sparse as hell in this apartment.
Why is she bloody and leave the gun in the fridge?
Right,
Like,
right. And she's packing a bag.
The last time I've heard somebody screaming, Kevin, it was Joe Pesci and what was my man's name getting lit up by Macaulay Culkin. And this is basically where we start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Home Alone. She was Home Alone.
She was Home Alone. Literally, I loved it. That's the parallels. One of the things that is dawning on me as we are all entering our half century in life, I'm around younger people all the time. And one of the aspects of Dana that I love, because the book was written in 1979, is that she is a Gen Z Black woman. I believe she says she's 25 or 26 in the first episode. She's making mercurial decisions. And just in case y'all didn't know, we spoiling the hell out the first 2 episodes. We didn't say that in advance. Sorry, but y'all know how we do here on the Black Futurist. She's Gen Z as hell. I'm selling my grandmama's house. I'm moving to LA to become a writer. And I'm going to take this loot and I'm going to decorate the crib. She's a Gen Z Black woman. She sees the little white boy hurt. That's a little boy. Let me go take care of this little Black boy, right? It's that part of her that I also like that they've done in the story as well. She is an up-to-date Gen Z and not one-dimensional, not just how baby boomers or Gen X see, these are Gen Y and they like Gen Z and they like to quit and leave and they don't know that when we start to turn into our own parents. I love the way that she's written in a temporal way that is true to a 26-year-old Black woman in 2016 who grew up in New York.
I hear what you're saying. I agree. And my early impressions of Dana was that she's trifling as hell, quite honestly. Like at that dinner with Auntie, Uncle, Dana, and Kevin, who we didn't know that was Kevin yet, I'm aligning with Alan. Alan is the uncle who's sitting there like, the hell, I don't even know. And there's some real nice things in that scene after watching it the second time. Who did you align with in those 4 characters during episode 1?
I would be Kevin. I peep what's going on, but I'm not getting involved. But as far as who I support Dana.
Okay.
She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And we all made some decisions in life. Let her make this decision and see what happens.
Val, who'd you align with?
I mean, I'll have to say Dana. Just because she's a protagonist and she's the person that I'm following in this journey. She's the one that I'm most aligned with in terms of the experiential nature of what she's going through.
Debra, how about you?
I would say that I aligned with her aunt because in these first 2 episodes, she's navigating the balance between, yes, here's my 26-year-old empowered Black woman daughter who is making these decisions. But right now, like Brent said, I'm going to make this kind of set of decisions. They are for my future, but man, so I can see her navigating. And that's one of the things about Gen Z. They can run over your feelings the way that she does as she tries to bump into and fight and find her way through. And of course, as they always do, first phone call that she made when this shit hit the fan, when she's bloody and she got to wake up, she got to call her auntie, like, tell me about my mom. Tell me I'm not going crazy. So they come back to us. We have to be that whooping dummy for beginning. We got to be the wooden man from Shaolin and just take it because we know they coming back and they need our wisdom.
Yeah. Here's a note after that restaurant scene that was interesting. Dana ends up with her aunt Denise, and she says something that I completely missed the first time I watched it. The note I wrote was ageism. There's a meme on the internet of a Black man in a wheelchair with a blanket over his lap. And the headline over the top says, brothers when they finally say they're ready to settle down in a relationship, which of course a woman made this meme. But there's a note in the show about that. Dana is talking to Kevin on their date, and she says that Denise used to be Alan's trophy wife, but now his stay-home health aide.
I caught that this time too.
It's all in there, isn't it? That was something. Is it a commentary on Gen Z that Kevin and Dana are the recipients of their grandparents' estate? Kevin got the Mercedes. What are we saying here, and why is that important?
I think it's an update. It is paying homage to 20-year-olds, not in 1979, but 20-somethings in 2016, and what that looks like as Kevin and Dana as a budding interracial couple. We were born right after the Loving decision. Shout out to our VA folk in the house, Loving versus Virginia.
In the book, they were actually married. They were married and living together in LA. So it's like to put that in the book then to your point, right after the Loving decision, I appreciate the way you said that, the update where it's like, okay, they got this generational wealth coming in, which allows him to be a musician and her to be a writer.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of dope.
Yeah. So now we hit our first time jump. What did you guys see?
Who was trying to kill Rufus? That was my question. Which kind of throws a spin into her always there to try to save Rufus. So what's the angle there?
Dana was on the floor. You saw a woman who was somehow manipulating the baby, Rufus, in the bassinet, and Dana got up and undid whatever was done, right?
Correct.
The first thing I said, being a father, was like, there's not supposed to be any pillows in the damn bassinet. Who does this? This is nuts. The first time watching, I totally missed that there was a person standing there that did it. I missed that altogether. I was like, why is this baby about to suffocate? And that's where we meet Margaret and Olivia in the hallway.
Margaret was exactly what I expected. Antebellum white woman on a plantation to be.
Mm-hmm. Former pig farmer.
Current pig.
Serious lack of agency, not the primary victims by any stretch of the imagination. I'd say secondary benefactors from white supremacy and slavery were white women who were on the plantation. But we're all victimized by white supremacy, white people included, even though they get the privilege. White women were detached from their children. They didn't breastfeed their children. They didn't put their children to bed at night. There's this interesting parallel. Basically, any white woman who lived on a plantation was a trophy wife. Her agency really just didn't exist. It was usurped by these Black women. And also there's the temporal piece, right? Those of us, I think, who are Gen X or baby boomers who are watching this thing were like, you better let that little white boy suffocate, little future slave on the plantation having, you know, like, we're like, let that little boy die. And that's why I love the commentary in the first couple episodes, because a Gen Z 26-year-old woman is not going to let that. She's a little white baby.
Well, and also she doesn't
later
know where
on,
she is.
call it,
she doesn't even know where she is. She just appears. She doesn't even know that this is real. She doesn't know where she is. She just sees baby. So yeah, you're right, 100%.
I'd save that white baby on first thought.
Yeah, I would too.
First thought, I'd say the white baby. Now, once I walked back outside and saw his mama, I'm like, go back and put it up, turn it back upside down.
I wrote my note as holy shit. She's awake, standing in the living room with the blanket on, and we don't know what just happened. Matter of fact, it's fine. It's like, hey, I had a weird ass dream. Let's keep it moving. And then the next day, Auntie comes to the house and visits. What we see there is that Dana has nothing in her house. She's bought a house in Southern California, spent millions of dollars on the thing, I'm sure, and she has no shower curtain. She has no rugs, which is why the whole room echoes. She ain't got no blinds, nothing. To your point, Gen Z. And we get the first mention of what I say is a trigger. I don't really understand it yet, but there's the word princess. What did you read from those scenes?
I want to go back to the whole empty house thing. I think it's less about the millennial or the Gen Z and more about where Dana is mentally. You know, she's an empty vessel for all this. You know, she comes without any baggage into this, so she's a clean slate in this experience. That's what she's trying to get moving to LA, this fresh start, this new beginning, you know, and one that she did plan on. Two, it became very clear to me that this story is about women. This is not a male-centered story, even though the battle clearly is against the patriarchy and white supremacy. And from a Black woman's perspective, they get to see both of those head on with both eyes wide open, where Margaret only gets to see the hallmarks of the patriarchy. And then number three is the issue with the time travel. And I'm really curious how they're resolving this, because the way that it's set up, time is really moving very strange. And I'm trying to kind of mathematically see how things are evolving or setting course. I know that wasn't your question, but those are the things that kind of started popping into my mind at the very beginning.
That's fantastic.
You know.
Those are great questions. That's where we want to be. I love the idea that you only watch the first 2 episodes, and that allows you something that I have to caution myself against. You don't know yet, and I have some knowing. So I really appreciate the idea that you present these questions. I want to encourage you to continue doing the same. In that conversation with Dana and Denise, there were 2 quotes that I wrote, and that fed back into my impression of Dana. You are not okay. That's what her aunt told her, and said, take a shower. When's the last time you took a shower? She yelled, take a shower, which means you stink, which means, back to my point, Dana's trifling. You call it independent, you call it Gen Z, I call it trifling. She clearly don't have her shit together. She inherited a multi-million-dollar house, and sold it without talking to anyone about it, and then moved without even so much as a shower curtain or a rug. So I disagree. I'm fine with disagreeing to say that at least we all have an impression of who this person is. You credit it to certain things. I credit it to the T word. She was trifling. That's what I got.
She was thinking because she ain't had no shower curtain, so she hadn't taken no shower.
Bruh.
And look,
like I said, she in a fucked up place right now. Think about it. She's the same age that her mom was when she died. And her father disappeared. So she's at a point in her life where it's like she's seeing her own mortality in a way, and she lost right now.
Good point.
We've all been in bad states before, so she's just going through something right now. That's the way I see it. And I agree, she is trifling, but that's on the surface. What's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah. I just want to point out that Brent Hughes is a network engineer, and he's got the worst Wi-Fi on the show.
Yo, I think one of the aspects I love about Gen Z is how bold they are, how they can center themselves. And when they do that, they make decisions that are brash and they make decisions that are self-centered. They're the self-care generation. They're the ones who have pushed us into that. Like we've watched Black women like Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, who have taken time out as either the best ever in their sport or one of the best currently in the sport and been like, hey, I'm not okay right now. And I'm an entertainer, but no, I'm not going to perform for y'all. I'm going to take time out for myself. And ways that those of us who grew up as children of baby boomers, our parents prided themselves on never missing a day of work. I went to work every day. I was on my deathbed. I could barely breathe. And I was at my desk and I was making sure I was drilling in that bit. And the fact that they prioritize those things, right? And the fact that Gen Z looks is like, man, fuck that. Don't I have sick days? All right, I'm taking them. How many vacation days I got? Can I get 10 more? You know, so I love that boldness about them. Let's also point out there is one of us who is a parent of 3 Gen Z folks who is dealing with the brashness and the foolishness that is Gen Z personally right now, and the ramifications of them being all about it and pushing us forward. And at the same time, you don't even take no goddamn shower. You don't have rugs in your apartment. You ain't got a shower curtain. And here you are, big and bold and making these wonderful career moves. Yes. Yeah, you big and bold.
So I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive. Go ahead.
A 12-year-old.
Go ahead. You're right. So next up, trifling ass Dana calls up the waiter from the shop last night because that's the only other person she knows. She had to curse her auntie out, and she know her uncle don't like her. So she calls up the waiter. And then they go shopping. And what we learn about Kevin in that time is that he is also a guy who's kind of been city to city, job to job. He's a musician. He's a recipient of some monies from his grandfather's estate. And they're both orphans. So they have this thing that they connect on, and that's kind of cute. It's nice. And then they go back to her place. They set up the bed, and then they sleep together in her apartment where she ain't got no curtains and no shower curtain and probably no towels. I'm just going to leave it at that. We also get a little bit of Dynasty in there. And it was nice to see Diane Carroll. And I think we got some foreshadowing in this moment. And that is the idea that Diane Carroll and Blake Carrington have the same father. There's a part of Dynasty that I knew, but really hadn't thought about in 30 years. And it is a nice nudge. Kudos to the screenwriters for really another update that makes sense and is in line with the original writing, which is fantastic.
Yeah, one of the scenes they consistently show, and I remember this, like our parents were shocked because Diane Carroll was the first Black person that we saw commit an act of violence against a white person in episodic TV. And she was the first Black woman to have her own TV show where she was the central character. So there is an importance to Diane Carroll, and it is still a story that centers women. It centers Black women. And even as someone who has only seen the first 2 episodes, it centers this conflict between a Black protagonist and a white woman, both who come from this incredible amount of privilege, but sets up what's happening and where we're being carried in the past.
Agreed. And now we go into time jump number 2. Rufus is drowning. So a cat has come into the back door of Trifling Dana's house, and Dana, for some reason, let the door open, let the cat in, and then we start to go through the dizzy spell, and we're holding the cat. We go through time. We hear in the background, Rufus! Rufus is somebody, and Dana becomes aware that there's a body floating in the river. And she goes over and saves the little white boy who happens to be Rufus. What did you guys notice? What do you want to talk about?
I said they took the cat pack so white people watching had something to care about.
I don't disagree. That's good. Here's a piece of the character Tom after Dana resuscitates Rufus. He points
Tom
a
is
gun
not
at her
the
and says, Tom is not the cat. Tom is a white man with a gun. And he points the gun at Dana and says, who are you, boy? Because Dana wears pants and has natural hair. And then she comes back to her normal time. Now, my question to you is, if you're Kevin, what's going through your head right now? You just met old girl 2 days ago. You guys just had sex. She slipped out of bed and she wakes up in the living room screaming. You're Kevin. Go.
I'll probably be out. As a,
Look at the time.
that's my rough first reaction as a single man. Meeting a woman the first night we had sex or second night, whatever the case may be, and it's all good. And she wakes up and she's all screaming in the middle of the living room, whatever. I'm like, are you okay? Because it's kind of strange. Oddly enough, well, here was a question I had before. So she brought her comforter back with her the first time and brought the cat back with her the second time.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if things are animate or inanimate. So I'm wondering, like, what is the energetic connection that brings things back and forth with her?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she's on the floor, the house, so how come the house isn't popping up or whatever?
So to your point, it's not Terminator, right? You don't have to show up naked on the other side of the time job. Right. Things can go with you.
Her clothes are coming with her.
Right.
You know, she ain't naked, so something about intimacy allows for things to go back and forth with her.
Okay.
Or some sort of intention allows for her to also carry things along with her. So things have to be in her psychic space.
Yep. And there's also, again, from the just 2 episodes perspective, every time she gets sent back, she's screaming. So there's some sort of traumatic experience on the end where she's back in 1815 that brings her. So first time the gun, pointed at her. The second time, I believe, is when she's being beaten by the overseer and then she gets brought back. So it's like just when she's getting ready to really get wrecked or even killed, she comes back. And so in the first 2 episodes, she says that she doesn't have control over it, but we're given some sort of inkling, like Lavell saying, like there's either some sort of totem that she needs or some sort of intentionality that she has subconsciously or unconsciously that is moving her back and forth. And she's still figuring that out. In the first
She's definitely still figuring it out. And I will say that you've watched enough sci-fi to have keyed into some things early. So kudos to you on that. Then we get to meet the neighbors because trifling Dana has no soft surfaces in her house. So when she screams the way she does, it is amplified and echoed and the neighbor comes over. And I thought the part of the neighbor's wife was like just wonderfully acted. They played on how I feel about that demographic at that age in that type of neighborhood. So whoever the actress is, I thought she did a fantastic job. I think she really played a believable white neighbor woman. And she, in that scene, came over looking for like, hey, is everything okay? You're new to this neighborhood. We don't even know you. What's going on in there? And they're able to kind of put it to bed. Say, hey, listen, we're sorry. She had a nightmare. It's all good. Thanks so much for coming by. Get out of here. And they did. I thought their concerns were valid. Quite honestly, I thought if I was the neighbor, I would have been like, yeah, I don't know if I'm bringing my gun over there, if I'm calling the police. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something because I can't have this. Right. And the next morning, we get that triggered thing again, because as Dana and Kevin are talking, he calls her princess. She flips out. Talk about that. Why is she triggered by being called princess?
We don't know.
Didn't her aunt call her a princess?
Yes.
And she talked about her being a princess, and she knows that her aunt has the perspective on her mom. So she's making these connections. We have seen in the first 2 episodes where she goes back and she actually has interacted with her mom, I believe, twice. We do find out her mom has been transported in the past as well. She does say that she's stuck there as well. But again, one of the triggers is her aunt. And this is the ageism, right? We look at these Gen Z kids as privileged, trifling. So then Kevin inadvertently triggering her, just refers to her as a princess because she's, this woman of privilege who's able to sell homes in New York and move to
buy
LA and become a starving writer and
buy $8,000 beds, right?
All while living without shower curtains or soft surfaces to sit on, right? The inability to entertain company anywhere except literally in your own bed, right?
Mm-hmm. So Kevin, having just diffused the neighbors with her, she asks him if he's going to stay, and then he mentions princess, and now all of a sudden, I need you to leave. It's a quick off switch. Gotta go. You gotta go. Da-da-da-da. Sorry, you gotta leave. Then I go from like relating with Alan, the cop, to now relating with Kevin. He did a nice guy thing. He's trying to stick around, and he says to her, I literally don't understand. Like, I just want to apologize, but I don't even know what I did. And I'm like, I feel sorry for the dude. He's an idiot because he's still here, but he legitimately doesn't understand. And so that was a transition for me in terms of who my character became. It never became Dana. It went to Kevin. Kevin's my guy, for right or for wrong. And then while they're together, time jump 3 happens. It's the fire. She yells, Kevin! And he turns around and she's not there. So this is the one he sees. Key thing about this particular jump is that the knowledge of Dana has become widespread. Everybody seems to know about Dana. Even Rufus refers to her as the specter. She's the ghost that haunts our lands. And other, enslaved people are aware of Dana, even though they haven't ever seen her. They just are aware. That's interesting. What did you read off any of that?
I think the mom knew it was her.
Yeah.
But I get the idea that it's a ghost, right? What else would you think?
Right.
Right? This woman shows up and she saved the kid twice that they know of. The first time, most people probably don't know about that, but she saved the kid twice. So there's something special going on.
Yep. You got anything on that, Val?
Well, definitely there is the idea of trying to put yourself into the frame of reference of someone, anyone, be them enslaved or a slave owner, and kind of what their worldview is. And the point of view of the time lapse, because when she first got there, Rufus was like 6 months old. The second time when he's finding him drowning, he's probably like 10 years old. And then the third time she jumps back when there's a fire, he's maybe like a couple years older than that. And all that within the span of, 6 hours maybe?
Yeah. So a lot's going on.
Right.
There's a difference. We love with sci-fi. There's a difference between how time is passing in the present for her and how time is passing, starting from 1815 when she actually has a conversation with her mom and finds out exactly, when it is. And then when the time is passing again, like it's just a few hours. And so the distortion for her as she goes back and forth is a challenge because time is passing differently. And again, to your point, back to the point about being a ghost, one of the things I love about when they go back in time, she really is out of place. Yeah, everything about her is out of place. Her clothes are out of place. Her attitude is out of place. Her hairstyle is out of place. And everything is consistently gendered and raced, in ways that they would have been. And her reaction to it, I think, is finally us, how would we respond in that case? And I think one of the aspects of it is, maybe she finds out like, oh, you can't kill me, because as of yet, she has not. Well, we know she's experienced some violence at some point because in the beginning, when she gets in the tub and there's the blood in the tub. So we know that she can experience violence, but it doesn't look like she can be killed. We don't know. But it doesn't look like she can be killed. And that may give her some bravery, again, that speaks to all the way back to Brent's comment about, what was it, Eddie Murphy, you saying there? Yo, if I was a motherfucking slave and shit, they tell me, get that cotton, fuck that shit, massa. I'll whoop your ass, massa. Like, we come back, we think we got that attitude. Like Brent said, once.
Some interesting things in there because, as we'll find out momentarily, you're saying she has some awareness. Like she's Denzel Washington in that movie he didn't take. She the Negro they couldn't kill, right? But the truth is,
maybe.
Like we come to find out she still doesn't know that this is happening. That's how we end out episode 2. After her conversation with her mom, is like, wait a minute, are you alive? Almost like she's still in the, I'm dreaming, I'm sleepwalking, my consciousness is just experiencing some things. She's about to question and wrap her head around like, holy shit, this is real. This is not just something that I'm experiencing in my consciousness. And before I jump you in, there was a line, we met Luke, who was a enslaved man who watched her disappear after the water rescue and now sees her again after the fire rescue. And a line that he says to her after he directs her off to her mom is, "Are you an angel or something else?" She turns back to the camera and says, "I don't know." I love that part. The not knowing is great.
Yep. And her not knowing. Yeah.
Exactly. So now we also meet the patroller, Daniel. We meet Luke. We meet Hagar. Hagar apparently is a prostitute, according to the patroller, Daniel. Daniel is a slave patroller. Because Dana is getting the opportunity to talk to her mother, we get a sense of what's happening. We get a sense of time, at least. And this might be the author's way of giving us the rules of time travel in this story. We understand that it's 1815. Olivia left in 1993, and apparently it is currently 2016. Question, why is it 2016? Why isn't it 2022? What do you think?
I don't know.
I think it can.
Is that how it was in the book?
The book was written in
You wrote the
79.
book.
Yeah, no, the book was 79, and the mom and dad were still alive and in the current time. So that whole piece of the story is new and different, which I think kind of dope, actually. But I don't remember if there was anything tied to that in the book.
I mean, outside of it being just a round number, easy to kind of hold on to as a plot device, 200 years, this seems a lot more solid. You know, it sounds anniversarial. It gives this, this happens every 100, 200 years. And so it has an element of some more of a cosmic force at play. Sort of like, cycle of time that's happening every 100, 200 years or so have you.
Good point. My dumb smart brain was looking for technology change, like what happened in 2017 that didn't allow them to tell the story past this time, because you're an idiot. Yeah, 100 years. That sounds pretty good. And in that conversation, we get the idea that Dana's wrapping her head around the fact that this is real versus this whole time I thought I was just kind of a tourist experiencing a thing. After that, she gets struck and seemingly raped by Daniel. And so here's my question to you. Daniel's hit, struck, and then Dana jumps back to real time. And then we get Kevin's reaction shot. Kevin hears Dana now screaming in the next room. She was just behind him. We understood how time worked for the mother, and now we're understanding how time works in our real time. Kevin is like, you were gone for like 3 seconds. And here you are, totally disheveled, and you have a black eye. I believe you now. What you got?
This is the time she scratched Kevin too when she came to.
And she scratched Kevin because she was being accosted by the patroller.
Right.
So she scratched Kevin on his neck. Right.
And so that shows also how instant it is.
Right.
It's not like she's in a fog or anything like that. She comes back right at the moment. There's no fade away, fade in. It's an exact thing.
Right.
It also creates a time paradox. And those of us who love sci-fi know if something that happened to your body 200 years ago can be transported and carried ahead, now you're changing the game, you're changing rules. We know this timeline has been polluted. We don't know if this is the Marvel universe where we're going to create all these different branches that Kang the Conqueror is going to come in and help us mess up or distort or whatever. Can't wait for that. Jonathan Major shout out. But we don't know if this creates alternate timelines. Is this one timeline in one universe that is now fundamentally changed? My man Kevin with his iPhone out, right? Like, I know better than this dude, but this would be the most Gen Z shit. Like, just in case I might get a signal.
I'm checking my signal too.
Bro.
You confused. You are confused.
If something that she does affects the past, so for example, maybe Rufus died and now she has consistently saved Rufus. So we've seen her save him twice. And something has changed fundamentally. If Rufus wasn't supposed to be in that continuity, if he wasn't supposed to be in the time, now he is. Now shit's drastically different. She wasn't supposed to exist in that timeline at all. Now she's there. Something has to fundamentally change with everyone who interacts with her.
Her mother wasn't supposed to exist then either.
Absolutely.
So she may be undoing, she may be the corrective force of nature, correcting the footprint left by her mother.
Huge time paradoxes have been opened up and we don't know. Like, what does it mean for her mom to have existed both up from 1970 to 1993 and then also from 1815 to whenever she lives?
Yep, exactly.
That's what I was thinking too. Her mom was the one, if that's what happened, her mom is the one that turned the baby. So does she understand the impact that would have on her family? right? So
Yeah.
and that's what I thought about it. I was like, if the mom was the one that was flipping him over, then the mom wouldn't exist if he died either. So that was what I saw.
Well,
So-
you can't step in the same river twice.
Mm.
So even if they are trying to correct the past, they're not in the same past. They're in a whole different parallel universe.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Love that quote. You cannot step in the same river twice. We're wrapping up the first episode with this key line. This is really happening. My mother is alive. The character now has realized and brought us all with her that this is not fake, false. This is real. To your point, Maurice, she brings a cat and the cat got a microchip in it. What does that do? When Nero travels back in time to kill Captain Kirk, how does that impact the technology of all of Star Trek? It happens, right? So that's episode 1. It's called Dana. It is based off of the main character. And when I read the list of the first 2 episode titles, I said, who the hell is Sabrina? I read Sabrina and I was like, I don't even remember a character Sabrina. And then I realized when I went back and read it again, I've misread it. It is not Sabrina, it is Sabina. And I still don't remember who Sabina was until I watched the episode and like, oh, such an interesting name for that episode. Let's get into that. Do any of you, just raise your hand if you remember who Sabina is.
On the second watch.
On the second, same here, only on the second watch. So episode 2 begins. It's the same story we just saw, but now we're in Kevin's view. So we followed our protagonist, Dana, as she jumped back in time. And now we're seeing that same moment from Kevin's perspective of she's there, she's gone, then she's screaming in the next room. We see it from the 2016 context. The audience is learning the mechanics of time travel and the time disparity, how time moves different for her depending on when she is. And that was a key question because there's a mention that she might be pregnant later. And I couldn't figure out, was it somebody before or after? But it might now be the fact that we saw Daniel. I think they shot that scene kind of short. I think he raped her.
No, he was trying to kill her.
He got knocked out before he was able, as far as I saw, to get his pants down.
I want you to watch that scene again. I want you to go back and watch it, and I want you to listen. I just feel like they hinted at it, and then he got hit, and they just didn't show that. Like, you never see Luke Skywalker go to the bathroom. And I'm guessing I don't have the right answer, but I want you to all to go back and...
The reason why that came up is because Kevin wouldn't hit Dana, and Tom asked him why. And he was like, oh, you got a 2-for-1.
Okay.
She's pregnant.
So you think that was contrived?
Yes, because of a misunderstanding of why Kevin wouldn't strike Dana while Tom was around. Well, how come you won't discipline your slave?
Got it.
Like he was like, oh, and Tom made the assumption, and then he went along with that.
And that goes back to the advice Dana gave Kevin when they got there. You know, he's lost and confused. So she's like, you know, nothing up. It's a game. Say whatever's on your mind. And that's why he's kind of mechanical when he's talking.
Yeah. So we haven't gotten there yet, but what happens is clearly Kevin's going to end up going back in time with Dana in this episode. There's a call between Dana and her aunt Denise where she asks about her mom. Like, even though I just argued with you, I just cursed you out, and that was like an hour ago, but it was like a day ago for me. Tell me what you know about my mom. And now we're starting to learn from the universal perspective represented by the aunt to say, hey, your mom was depressive. She had mania. Both parents died in a car accident, but the mother's body was never recovered. There's another little throw in that happens right here because the neighbors come back and we find out that the cat's name was Princess Diana. Yet another.
There's one more thing that the aunt said though.
What she said?
The aunt said the mom saw things that weren't there.
She saw things that weren't there. That's right.
She saw things that weren't there. So I wonder if she had gone back more than once.
Yeah, exactly. The neighbor's wife, when she goes to tell her husband, hey, I went next door and I saw the guy and now he's covered in blood, talking about the scratch on his neck. And she goes, well, he's not covered in blood, but still. I'm like, this portrayal is so freaking perfect. It's perfect. Exactly. He's covered in blood. So jumping to your point now, through hook or crook, we time jump again. But this time, Kevin is included in the time jump. And when we jump back, Kevin is like, what the hell is going on? They're now in this snowy place. Clearly, we have jumped back in time. Kevin has no choice but to believe. And in the distance, we hear screaming and there's something going on. And this is the part that incensed me. Dana runs off and starts screaming, "Rufus, I'm coming." And I got pure nanny vibes off of that. "Rufus, I'm coming." I was like, what happens if you don't?
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's her mission.
Why? Why does she adopt it so quickly? Shouldn't her mission be her mother at this point? Why?
Because every time she shows up, she's in front of Rufus, not her mama. Her mama is just somewhere in the background.
Right.
So Rufus's trauma, his literal death trauma, brings her back. So him about to suffocate as a baby, him drowning, him with the broken leg, he was poisoned. Like I might be jumping around somewhere.
No, it was a fire. He got the fire.
Right, the fire.
And I think we went over that part that was when they first had a conversation. And she's like, what are you doing? What is this? And that's when I think you talked on it, D, that he asked her if she was a Hank or something else. So I had to look up what Hank was. Hank was a ghost. But so I think that's an important piece that I think she asked too, like, why do you call me back or something like that? So
true.
And but she found out that he could see her also.
Right.
This was the fire time, I believe. So she knows that she has to save him. That's why she's there. I don't think she understands why, but she's like, okay, let me get this shit out the way first. And after that, I want to go see my mom.
Yeah. And at this point, Kevin becomes the straight man. Kevin becomes the voice of like everybody, because he says what everybody says. He tells her, "I'm freaking out right now. I'm freaking out." and she goes, "Treat it like a game." And then we get to go see full-on plantation life. So horse and carriage, and there's a plantation. We see all the enslaved people. We see all the fixings in daylight now. All of us are brought into it and the whole thing. And all I want to do is bring a stick of dynamite at this moment. All I want to do is just blow it up. That's just my internal gut. Why?
Yeah.
I think if you put yourself in the seat of Dana, I thought she really got comfortable really quick, way quicker than my personality allows. I would still be saying, what happens if I blow this up?
But how's she blowing it up though? I mean, she doesn't have any tools to blow anything up. To your first point about her adopting the nanny role, that's the whole point that the story I think is trying to tell in this adaptation, the fact that, Black women in this enslaved period played multiple roles. And as a caregiver, as Brent said earlier, was one of their major roles. White women didn't raise their children, or as most said, they were like trophy wives. So this just reinforces the fact that, Dana, i.e. Black women back in the time, were primary caregivers in the home of both white children and Black children.
Mm-hmm.
And for the sake of moving the story along, she had to, take on this role rather quickly. We are telling the story here too. So we don't have time to embellish and to get into so much nuance as to why and her thinking, but this was happening. She's there. The second flip part of that too, I think, is the fact that Kevin's role in the South, you would think that a white man would be more comfortable adopting this, yes, this is how it should be. And, bitch, wench, right. Where the Black person would be like, oh shit, and all like freaking the fuck out. Whereas the opposite, Dana is in control, where Kevin is, a loose cannon.
Yeah. And I've got a problem if I'm Kevin, because Kevin now, I say, is like fully representing my avatar. I've got a problem being outside of arm's reach of this woman at this point. You want me to go do something? Yeah. You want me to go down there with him? I'm not leaving. I'm staying right here. Matter of fact, hold my hand. I'm not leaving. Right. So there's that part. We see Thomas.
It's interesting. Kevin doesn't know how to delve into the white male privilege of that era. Because, for example, when Wright tells him, "Oh, slaves, they stay up in just the room. It'll be the room right upstairs." He's a white dude in 1820. He can be like, that may be what you do in your house, but she's going to stay right here. Or me and your husband can have a conversation about how you run his house, right? But he doesn't know how. He's a Gen Z white dude, right? They're used to a different type of privilege. And again, white people are not the primary victim of white supremacy, but we often overlook what white male privilege and what male privilege does to the people who get it. It gives us a gauge in terms of here's how it used to be and here's how it is now. Here's how comfortable he is with it. So there's a nod to one, yes, we've come a long way and those narratives sound great. And then there's also like, yeah, there's a bunch of parallels here between, these two existences that just remind us we got a shit ton to fix.
Right. There's no right answer. This is the writer and the writers who have gone on to readjust the material. And I think that they've done a great job of putting their perspective in and making it make sense. You can make an argument for all those things and how everybody responded. I was just giving mine. Blow that shit up. But what you gonna do? Then there's no story. The actor Tom, who plays Rufus's father, he played in True Blood. He was the Stackhouse boy. He was Sookie's brother. So cool to see him again. And we also meet two characters, the character of Sarah, who runs the cookhouse, and her mute daughter, Alice. Sarah, she's the actress who played Ida B in the show 20s, if you've seen that, which was fantastic. Kevin is then catered to. Kevin is treated separately from Dana because he's a white man in antebellum South and she's a black woman. So they're separated. Take this young lady, take her off to the cookhouse, get her some slop, and sir, you can come on in the house with me. We're going to get you some clothes. What is this costume you're wearing? Did you lose a bet? Kevin has to make up a story because, again, like you guys have keyed in on, he has to treat it like a game, according to the advice of Dana, in order to just move forward. Just play it like you would play Xbox. What are you supposed to say now? I got robbed. That's why I don't have any shoes or any instruments. And we meet the namesake of the episode, Sabina. Who is she, Brent?
She is a house servant who comes in to help Kevin change out of his clothes and put on what is supposedly warmer clothes and clean clothes. But what we notice is kind of hunched over, walking slow, and notice her feet are like bandaged, but one toe is sticking out. And you can tell she really has some bad, serious foot issues. It could be bone, it could be definitely the skin looks bad, but she's having a bad time with her feet. No shoes on. She may typically wear shoes in the house, but it looks like her feet were in such a condition that she could not.
Right.
So to that point, later on in the story, they make a trade. And he was like, well, you're a doctor. She has all these ailments. You can experiment X, Y, and Z. And this just gives a nod to the fact that black women were used as guinea pigs, by white doctors to experiment on for gynecological purposes and other things. And this takes a nod to Haiti McDaniel. Am I saying her name right? I'm probably not.
Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah, thank you. And them using her to further science and just the history and the legacy of white men using bodies in the progress of white science.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's to your point. Well, I'll wait till you get to that point in the story, B, and because I got something to say about that with regards to the title.
Yeah. So we're right there. We get another experience with Luke, the black male overseer slave hand, who then asks a question of Dana about Kevin and asks, "Is that him?" She's like, "Who? Is he the devil?" So back to like, are you an angel or something else? I don't know. And now you show up again with this white dude. Is he the devil?
And he's like no other white dude I've seen before.
Right. He's wearing a screen printed graphic T-shirt. Right. Barefoot with socks
faces,
on.
With faces on. With 3D glasses.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. T-shirt. That's what I thought about, the faces on there. Like, and I can see that. Oh, he got schools on his chest.
And you realize no one in that era, as far as we know, no one would have had writing on any of their clothing at all, of any type, right? And so he's got writing on his clothing. He's got a T-shirt, which had not been created yet. Everything had buttons on it, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of anachronism in the story that, again, brings me back to this notion of timeline pollution. The timeline is absolutely being destroyed. If you think in the terms of butterfly effect, yeah, think about the first dude that saw a T-shirt and just like, I saw a guy and he had on this shirt, but it had no buttons and there were other faces and it had writing on it. That would stand out. Historians would be like, we don't believe this account. This is a fictional account. We know that this actually it'd be like Willie Lynch. Well, we can tell by the language. We know that this wasn't written by a slave owner in the 19th century. We know that this is actually something modern. It's been invented. We would completely dismiss it unless there's some sort of consistency, you know what I mean? That, like backs it up. Like, okay, now we got multiple accounts,
Right.
of people seeing this.
Right. How we move forward into the next spot is, my note is, again, Dana is too freaking comfortable. She is in here chilling. Kevin is still like flustered. And we meet Dr. West, who is now going to treat young Rufus by bleeding him and then setting his leg.
Bleeding him because he was outside in the cold.
Take care of those humors.
Yeah.
Hey, that was science.
That was the science at the time.
Right. I think another choice of 2016 is important because it's a pre-pandemic world too,
And a pre-Trump world too.
Yeah.
See, I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. You see that?
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Right. Because it changes our notion, like, that idea of, the little boy was outside. Now he needs to be bled because of the bad humors in his body, which was, the way that biology worked back then, and the way most doctors were just quacks. They were running around, with cocaine and opiates, and, they would just numb the shit out of you, and
it's here,
and they'd make you feel better. But in terms of like, are they actually healing? The answer, as we know, is absolutely not.
This doctor who is going to bleed somebody, coughs in his hand. It seemed like he got the consumption, and they're gonna shake somebody's hand straight out after he coughs in his hand.
Not only that,
again,
to your point,
context.
Maurice, as they're trying to subdue Rufus's mother, they dump like a bottle of opium in her mouth. They're walking around with all the drugs. Bloop, 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 take that. Oh,
because she went out quick.
Quick, man.
She went out
quick.
Right. Was there a dosage? Did they measure anything?
The whole bottle, bro.
Right. And this is for the people who played Oregon Trail and died of dysentery and you thought it was too easy. Look at that. The doctor comes up to you like, we need to put these leeches on you.
Do you want to wash your hands? No, I ain't got no time.
And didn't have time to, and that wasn't Dana that said that. That was somebody from the time that said that. So there was awareness that you should wash your hands.
No, it was a woman.
Tom? Okay.
It was a woman who said it.
I thought it was, what's his name? Austin? If it wasn't, I thought one of the things that was important was it pointed us to the fact that the enslaved had to know and understand life differently. They had to understand, like, okay, we ain't got the bottle full of cocaine. We don't have the bottle with the opiates. We ain't got none of that. We either have to take whatever we know, the old tree bark stuff that we used to figure out. We got to figure out something that actually works. And so we understand, like, hey, when we treating each other and all these open wounds and sores we got, when we wash our hands, it tends to work a little bit better, So the notion of antiseptic techniques had not been invented yet in science in 1815. The notion that would come from folks who are enslaved makes sense because they're the ones who had to deal with it.
So one thing with the doctor, and I think you were getting to this before we started talking, he said he was going to bleed him, and she said, I don't think you need to do that. And that's when my favorite line, who are you to address me, negress?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So that, and again, about knowing your place.
She got too comfortable. She got comfortable, man, quick.
Lucky. She's lucky in that situation.
In your pants with the YKK zipper and buttons and stuff. 8 pockets on your pants. Right.
These are the people who decide to sell the brownstone to get $1 million or $800,000 and move into a place with no curtains. These are the people who quiet quit. These are the folks who say, I don't feel like it, so I ain't going into work. These are the folks who say, oh, I got 2 weeks of vacation. Can I get another 2 weeks? Right. And we understand it like, yo, you realize you about to get fucked up. Like, this is and these are the main ones who don't want to see nothing about slavery.
To me, though, it kind of dismisses what she's experiencing. Like, we can say from here, like, oh, you need to watch your mouth. But in the moment, you may not. Right? So that's how I look at it. It's like, oh, she forgets again. Like, fuck, I forgot again.
Bruh. But
I think it is true that they will speak up more. But I'm leaving a little space for, I'm fucking confused right now. And again, she has to keep him alive. So you're talking about bleeding him. I'm like, I know that's risky. So there's also that level too. So.
Well, there's that part to your point of for her own survival, because everybody's concerned with survival in this point, including Tom. You've got to do what you got to do to survive. And if keeping Rufus alive and away from bad treatments and dudes who cough and wipe their hands on their pants and then claim to be doctors, then yeah, she has to say something or do something or nudge Kevin or something. Somebody got to do something. You're right. Tom and Kevin get to talk. So it's the two white dudes who, one is in abject fear and the other one who feels like he's talking to his peer. And we learn that in order for Tom to continue to thrive and move forward, he's got to convince his brother-in-law to sell him the 100 or so acres that are adjacent to his property before he leaves. Otherwise, he's going to have some problems. Dana, meanwhile, goes upstairs and is being summoned by who his own father calls him the little devil, Rufus. And Rufus is
demon. Take that demon to his room.
That's a whole relationship we're gonna have to pursue. It's like, why does Tom feel this way about his son? He doesn't have a nice word to say about this dude. And so go see the little demon upstairs, and she's reading in a time where black people weren't allowed to read, especially at this particular plantation, weren't allowed to even look at a book. So she's beginning to read. What was it?
Gulliver's Travels.
Gulliver's Travels.
And then we get the part of realizing we're going to stay overnight. And now, like you were talking about, Maurice, Kevin kind of losing that battle to Margaret that we're going to have your slave sleep in the slave quarters upstairs in the room just above yours. This way, wench. What you got?
Yeah, wench. And well, let me say something before that. That again, to the timeline, when after they drug her and her and Kevin are down by the piano, I noticed because I'm learning it now, he starts to play Fleur Elise. But again, doing the research, Fleur Elise wasn't written till 1810 and not released till 1867. So, and I was like, that seems, it doesn't mean a lot, but to your point, somebody might hear that and start playing it regularly. And, there's just an interesting meaning that could happen.
And who wrote it? I mean, in this storyline, that was Tom's wife's music, who's now dead. She died of dysentery along with her father. The piano hasn't been touched in 10 years since she died.
He wasn't reading the music as it was up there.
I don't think he was reading the music.
He was just playing Fleur Elise from memory. Because, again, Fleur Elise, like Brent said, it wasn't published until 1867, the year of our Lord, in which Howard University became the single greatest college university on the planet. But yeah,
I was letting somebody else pick that one up. I dropped that and I hope y'all picked it up. Appreciate that.
Right? No one would have heard Fleur Elise unless Beethoven played it for him. So he thought that was just an original. That's why he was able to sell that he's a traveling musician. Like, oh, you playing your own music. There's a piece of what was a movie with the guy and the Beatles never existed. So he creates all their music. You know what I mean? I haven't seen the whole movie. But there's a piece of that, like to Brent's point. Again, pollution of the timeline. Now imagine Fleur Elise is published. Somebody's like, I heard that shit 100 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago, my boy Kevin was playing that. He had on Kevin. He had on the thing with he had on the shirt with faces on it, and with the people with the things that they put on their faces.
I mean, well, I think that they deal with the time dilution aspect of the fact that they're on a plantation, and plantations were quite sparse and far from major population centers. So you could dilute the time, quote unquote, in that area, but not dilute the timeline per se. So I'm not too concerned with that as a thread that would unravel the story.
Okay. That wraps up episodes 1 and 2 of Kindred on FX. How do you feel about the show so far, having seen 1 and 2?
I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying it so far. I am looking forward to see how Octavia Butler, vis-a-vis the folks who are translating her work, account for things like timeline pollution, maintaining a time stream. How deep do they go into the science of it? The fiction portion of the science, how much they feed, for example, a community now that is not just raised on Star Trek, but has now seen the Marvel universe and the DC universe, and see how all of them deal with time and time travel and paradoxes. I'm curious to see how they make it for those of us who are smart viewers, and how they stay true to Octavia Butler's work as well.
Yep.
I have to read the book and really kind of get it from an original standpoint.
I'm going to ask you both to not read the book until after we've recorded our stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I think I started reading it before I knew the show was coming out. But the thing about it is, I'm not one of those, it doesn't stick to the book. I'm like, is it a good story? Is it interesting? And this is giving me all of that. So
Yeah,
It's fan fiction. All adaptations are fan fiction.
that's true. This is true.
You know,
right.
I'm excited to see how the story leads our conversation and how we walk away from these first episodes, how we start thinking about the world differently and how this might move us forward, especially when it comes to the idea and that resistance to some portions of our community in any given time to watch yet another slave narrative, kind of as we addressed in the beginning. Thank you so much for joining. I'm looking forward to having you guys back in a week.
Right.
yeah.
Can't wait.